This evening's talk is going to be titled Results Are Overrated. Results. Gotta have results. No, you don't. I have to have anything. This doesn't mean that we're ruling out every kind of result there is. It's just that look how much attention, look how much value and misplaced awareness we put on results. Results tie us into preconceptions about what should be happening, what shouldn't be happening. And when you're looking for results, what are you missing? Yeah, very simple. He's hung around me a lot. If you're looking for results, if results are there, you don't have to look. They're there. There's the results. You didn't call it a result. You just call it whatever's there. But if you're looking for results, you are overlooking what is occurring at any given moment. So it's another form of ignorance, a very subtle form of ignorance. To look for what? Something else. You may justify it, passion, by having some kind of well, I'm doing this so that this will happen. I'm doing this and doing this so this will happen. The interesting thing about that is no matter what you do, what you thought was going to happen doesn't happen. Maybe close, but usually it doesn't. It's different than what you thought. You set out to get a degree in, what did you get your degree in?
Geomorphology.
What?
Geomorphology.
Geomorphology. And how's that going? No, results. Here he is. He's a monk at this temple. So not that you're not using some of that education for your work at the nature. Sure, there's some looking at, but we don't really think that what we think is going to happen doesn't happen. Did I say that right? To be tied up in results is what I'm trying to point out. I'm not talking about the just general, you go and you buy spaghetti and you bring the water to a boil. And do you break the spaghetti first, or you just put it in whole? What?
Put it in whole.
I break it.
What? You break it because you're the only one's going to eat it, right? But if you're a cook, a chef, you do what?
Put it in whole.
Put it in whole. That's the last food question. Or not. So we do this for we follow a certain process to get a result. What? Spaghetti, a meal. So we follow a protocol for doing that. But even when you're following the damn protocol, there's always something that's different about it. Something is changing. Even with something that is so precise as baking, which you can't add lib on that. It won't work. You might have something to eat, but it might not be so good. And you have to be very careful. I think even temperature, humidity, all of that is important in some ways. Isn't it humidity that's important, or elevation, how high you go up, or how high? There's a certain kind of bread in the valley recipe, and another kind for results. Always looking for results. People who meditate are looking for results. And again, back to the original thing I said is I'm not saying we're going to do away with that. It's the emphasis, the clinging to it, the fixation on the result, which causes us to ignore the process. So bringing that back to meditation, if you sit down, hold still, and you watch what happens, rather than try to get something to happen, then you will be engaged in the very process that gives you so much trouble with your life. You'll be able to see the action. It's like looking at the machinery. And I feel like that. But you're actually looking at the machinery of delusion, confusion. You're actually looking at it. That's uncomfortable. No one wants to look at what the problem is. They'd rather look at what the result of working on it, fixing it. Meditate away your blues and problems. So results are overrated. In other words, and in the same words, looking for something else takes us away too quickly from the process. If you're looking, it shows up much more simply in something like cooking, where you have to really pay attention to every step along the way, or you're not going to get the result you're looking for. Looking for results. What do you think?
Answer to a question.
Hmm?
Is that a result? An
Right.
answer to a question?
Maybe. You have a question?
I do.
Go ahead.
So, I think you said if you're looking for something else, that takes us away from what we're looking for.
Good.
Okay, so in meditation, if we're just observing
Yes.
and things arise,
Yes.
and we look at them, then what do we do?
Keep looking until nothing arises. Things are arising, then you have your job, your work is cut out for you. Just look at what arises. See what arises, watch what it does. It hangs in for a while, it changes, it goes this way, it goes that way, and then it vanishes, or it goes this way. It does something different, or it modifies in space. Your confusion starts to turn in from one thing into another thing. If you watch it, if you're doing anything with it, if you're trying to get it to do something other than what it is, then it's like trying to see down in water. And instead of just waiting and watching the water to see if there's a fish or whatever there, we reach down and stir things up. Same thing happens with our mind. Don't do that. Wait, sit back, hold still. Wait, with each person, it's going to take a different amount of time, maybe even a different technique of meditation, maybe different lengths of time. Maybe a person should be sitting 20 minutes 2 or 3 times a day. Maybe another person should be doing more of what we call block sitting, or blocks of time. Maybe you should do one for a few months and then go to another form. Quite often, the meditation or lots of things are promoted or advertised in such a way they're trying to get you to trying to get control of you, or trying to get you to do things a certain way, or sell you something by promising results. When it comes to meditation, at least in the Buddhist spiritual path, if you're promised anything, and then the traditional red flag should go up everywhere. If you just meditate, if you do this kind of meditation, you'll have this kind of result. Nah. And if you did have that for a little while, it would be artificial. It would only hang in there for a while, and then it would fall away. Should be all kinds of questions here to keep me going. Otherwise, I'm just going to drop over. Yes. Sheldon.
While I was meditating earlier today, I noticed that I was having little dreams.
Yeah.
And then I looked at what was in front of my eyes.
Yes.
The thought occurred that what I was actually looking at was a dream also. And I wonder what is actually there. And that seems like looking for a result as well.
That's a statement.
Is it
What?
looking for a result as well?
It's what looking for a result.
Looking to see what is actually there rather than the dream.
Probably not. Depends on what happens in that process. If you do nothing with what arises, then it's fine. But if you take what arises and accept it or reject it or look away from it, then we're right back to spinning around. Follow me? Yeah. Don't do anything with it. Anything that produces itself, that apparently produces itself, just let it be that. Don't necessarily decorate it or have to do something with it or push it down or fluff it up or change it. Yes. What was your name again?
Candace.
Again?
Candace.
How do you spell it?
Kandyss. If we're not looking for results, why meditate anyways?
So it's not that we aren't looking for, don't have that to some extent, but what I'm trying to point out is we fixate on it. And if you fixate on it too much, then you'll also fixate on the process of meditation, what you think it is. You have ideas about it, and you meditate for 3 months and think, well, this doesn't work. I'm not getting the results I wanted. So you don't know with meditation practice, that's why it's called a spiritual path. Because you might have a concept. Thank you for that question, by the way. You might have a concept as I want to be more peaceful. I want to be less warlike. I want to just settle down, enjoy my life, and not go to fight with myself. So one way of saying that, one of the ways it has been taught, is to meditation is a way of making friends with yourself. So making friends with yourself, like making friends with anybody, can take some time, and you can't really sit down and decide the protocol. Whatever that recipe is going to be, you're going to have to work with it as it comes up. So when you sit down, your goal may be to make friends with yourself or to be more peaceful. But in order to do that, you have to look, since you don't know exactly why you're confused. In other words, you don't really know what it is. So if we attach to the results too firmly, then we get kind of macho about it. Like, this is the way it's going to be. Why? Because I said so. I'm going to control this myself. So the idea is to soften up. The only thing that needs to be strong and solid would be your posture. We can't control the mind. Can you control your mind?
No.
Can't even find it. We're not even sure there is such a thing. Looks like there is, but what the hell is it? Describe the mind. You don't know what the mind unless something is appearing in it. If something is appearing in it, it's not what's appearing in the mind. It's what is it? I know. See, if I don't know, how the hell are you gonna know? What's the difference? I don't care. I'm not saying dismissively I don't care, but I also know that that's a false path. It's just useless spinning in circles trying to figure that out. What you're looking for, you're looking at it right now. You're the heart of gold, the Buddha in the palm of your hand, the treasure in the dust heap. It's available right now. The very area that you think is a bunch of crap that you need to get away from, that's where that diamond is. Realization. So we can't too early set things up. I'm just looking for results, because then the ego or the self-centered part of the mind will kind of take over and run things. And then we'll believe our thoughts. And one of our thoughts will be, this isn't working. That's why it's necessary, from this person's point of view, to have a teacher, someone you can trust, or at least someone you can give the benefit of the doubt to. Probably shouldn't trust anybody. Everybody's suspicious, especially me. Trust anybody. Trust yourself. If it's a true teacher, he or she will turn that over to you and say, trust yourself. You might come and say, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Say, what do you want to do? Well, I want to do that. So we'll do that. Yeah, but we do that to ourselves. We'll say, we have this transcendental schizophrenia called, a part of me wants to do this, but then a part of me wants to do that. But then my husband wants me to do this, and my kids want me to do that. And so, next thing you know, you're looking for drugs. So yes, we do want, now that I've said my piece, drugs are overrated. Is that what the title of the Good resist. So, but once we say that, then we can go back and really have an honest, genuine relationship to results. I mean, then we can really look at, oh, okay, I see. Now I can have some results, but I need to be careful about clamping down on anything and making any kind of demand. The minute you make a demand, you slam the door on your awareness and say, I don't like that. I don't want it that way. I don't want to feel that way. Well, I often say, as I think I said to somebody, probably Chris or Hannah, those are the two people I talked to in the last 20 minutes. Don't miss your life. Don't miss even though the very negative things that are coming up in your life, your relationship stuff, your job stuff, your coworkers, anything you're having in your life that's very difficult for you personally. I don't care what it is. Don't miss it. I'm not here to say, oh, I've got cancer. How wonderful. No, I'm not missing my life. I'm going to enjoy my cancer. I'm not saying that. On the other hand, if you did find yourself in a really difficult situation, like with a bad back, when you're only 27 years old, that sucks. But on the other hand, what is that? What is it to have really a lot of pain in a particular way that, say, your contemporaries are not having that? What is it that you are singled out, so to speak? It's like, what does ego start doing, or self-centered start lecturing ourselves? Well, I don't deserve this. Why is this happening to me? Immediately leaving the very message that is there for each one of us. Whatever is occurring to your life is exactly what you need. This world is completely in balance. I know it doesn't look like it. I watch the news too. It looks terrible. It looks terrible. This is what the world looks like when it's trying to balance itself. The world will not stand for something out of balance. It won't stand for it. And it will always try to put things in balance. If you're a Libra, you know what I mean. Scales, it's like the scales of justice. Of course, that's misunderstood. That's extremely primitive. They're looking at punishment. We're not looking at punishment. We're just looking at cause and effect. Cause and effect nature of the world is not two. You can't have one thing without something else. Questions about that would be good. Jeff?
So the idea that the world is balancing itself.
Actually, it's already balanced, but I'm the only one who can see that.
Is that based on something or kind of an article?
Based on what I said.
I mean, is that your personal experience that you've seen that, or?
That everything is balanced?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. But that doesn't mean that there isn't all kinds of tension. It doesn't mean that if you're looking at one end of the teeter-totter, teeter-totter, the thing that's fun about a teeter-totter is it's about balance. Unless you have a friend who's not really your friend, and they wait till you're at the top and they jump off. And then you go wham! And then you end up with what Jay's on. Store back. So yes, I do see that. That doesn't mean that there isn't all kinds of really intense confusion going on from beginningless time that's always trying to sort itself out. But when you see a big picture, you see that things are balancing. Even if it takes blowing up the whole world, which I hope it doesn't go that far. But you can't destroy can't destroy it. All it does is, even the physicists tell us, energy is just changing form. So if there's no personality in it, then you're not going to care what form it takes. Go ahead.
So part of that balancing on an individual level is everything that arises is what we need, according to what you said.
It is.
Okay. So is there, I assume that's personal experience also, seeing that over
Well, I'm
time.
not going to say what your experience is.
But, so then is there a purpose inherent in things?
The idea of purpose is not to be ignored or looked away from, but it's such a big picture that you can't actually see it. You know, you can see little purposes. The purpose of this is that. The purpose of this is for that. You know, the reason we put a tarpaulin over the lawnmower is to keep from getting wet in the rain. We're not using it. So there's a purpose. There's always a, tit for tat thing happening everywhere, but it's happening everywhere. Everything is endeavoring to balance itself. The very nature of everything is balancing.
Is that kind of yin and yang?
Yeah, that's a simple way of putting it, but I thought you'd rather hear the complicated version.
Okay.
It's just yin and yang. Yeah, it's black and white, night and day, success and failure, life and death. Life and death is just a balance. Because who you are cannot be killed. Who you think you are is coming and going. Ego. Over here, Michael.
Is suffering just the act or us trying to balance,
No, it's resisting the balance.
resisting balance?
I don't want that. That's too much. That's not enough. You're never happy. Second noble truth, wanting things to be different than they are. First noble truth is things suck. Second noble truth is it's because we don't like it that way. And then the third one is that can come to a halt. That can stop. And the fourth noble truth is awareness. Awareness practice so that you can see what is fundamentally true, which is that you're not separate from anything, anywhere. It just looks that way. And if you grasp at the separation, try to succeed or try to be better than others or be stronger than others or richer than others or cuter than others, then that it's not that you can't do some of that, but it's just you're just playing into that whole mix of passion, aggression, ignorance, passion, aggression, ignorance, pushing, pulling, shutting down, pushing, pulling, shutting down. Merry-go-round, yes.
To go back to finding results,
Yes.
can you talk about that with the other words you used in your meditation primer tonight? Practice? Relationship there?
I don't understand the question. What are you asking me?
Compare practice to results.
Compare it? Over my
I'm
head.
not using the right word.
You mean you're wrong?
Yes.
I really don't understand. I'm not.
I'm wondering about if you're looking for a result, that means there's some sort of judgment or something,
So it could be something.
some quantitative thing going on.
Okay.
And I'm wondering if you use practice in that when you go to the cushion, you're just practicing.
Yeah. So I think I talked about it yesterday. A threefold logic. There's a threefold lot. You can apply this to anything. There's what the foundation is, and then there's what the process is, and then there's the result or the fruition. So ground, path, fruition. So the ground of our situation is suffering or discontent, or you wouldn't be in here. And then the path is sit down and see what the situation is grasping at a self, grasping, being fixated on your ideas, fixated on your opinions. That's the path. And then the fruition of the result is no more grasping, no more tension. The whole construct of wanting things to be different than it is falls apart. This doesn't mean that you might not have some difficulty come and go. You might have a headache. Somebody might cut you off in traffic, which is irritating. But the fixation is gone. You're not running around with a chip on your shoulder about the world or about life.
How does practice help them?
Helps you see. Because what you're doing is you're taking all the other activities that you do all day long and moving this way and that way and adding and subtracting and stacking this up and tearing this down and pushing and pulling. And you're bringing your body down to the one thing you can control, and that's your body. You have a little bit of say-so about that. Hold still. Watch what continues to move, and this will help you over time see more clearly what it is that you're doing to make things difficult for yourself. Question?
What is it to help someone when perfection and balance is already the case?
They don't know that.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear which one she said.
I said, what is it to help someone when perfection and balance is already the case?
So helping something when perfection or balance is already the case is to work with people where they're at. They think there's something wrong. They're suffering. They're actually having emotions or feelings that are terrible. So we meet them where they're at. And if you meet them where they're at, you're probably going to feel like them. So if there's a solid being here called an ego or a self, then you're going to think you need to take that, you need to help them get rid of that. Or you need to accuse them of something. Well, the reason you're doing this is because of this. You might have an agenda about it, but the idea with compassion is just feel with them, just be with them. That's all you have to do. If there's anything necessary to do, it will come out of the awareness and not out of your strategy to help another being who is confused or suffering. Some people you may step right in and make a rent payment for them without having any idea what, because you're operating out of your intuition. You're operating out of your genuine presence rather than some kind of strategy about the nature of the world and what a great, kind, helpful person you are. You don't have any identity like that. Other people might think you're helpful. You won't have a clue. You just function. And this doesn't mean you function like a dead fish or a rock. You have no emotions. You probably have more emotions than most people because you have all of theirs besides your own. It's called compassion. Not easy. If it's your path, you won't be able to avoid it. If it isn't your path, you might have trouble getting to it. More? Jeff.
So compassion involves widening one's sense of boundaries to where emotions that are kind of part of the karma of others enter into one's own awareness.
No. Why don't you ask me what they are? And I can tell you. Instead of saying this and saying, is that it? Then I say no. And then you go. So is it a bunch of snow on the top of a mountain with parrots sitting all over it? Or maybe, if you keep giving me examples and say, is it that, is it that, is it that, we could be here all night.
Well,
So just ask me what it is.
okay, well, the feeling of the emotions of others.
You're not going to do it, are you? I'm not going to answer.
Well, I would like you to, if you would, go into that experience of feeling with others
Okay.
to where it's real and not just, people say, oh, I feel your pain, but they really don't.
I can. That's a good point. I feel your pain, but they really don't. They're just saying that because they want to manipulate you. They want you to think that you're a kind, loving, caring person, and you should. They should do what you think. So, let me tell you what it is. I'm still not going to ask me questions. Okay, so ask me that question. There's what? I'm not getting any help here. Okay. So I'll ask myself what this is. What was it? I can't remember.
What is compassion?
Huh?
What is compassion?
Oh. Didn't I describe that already? Feeling with? So how do you, the thing that Jeff was going into was how do you do compassion? How do you generate it? Or how do you be compassionate? Is that what you were asking?
Pretty much, yeah,
Okay, pretty much. Good.
good enough.
Good enough. Close enough. Okay, so I'm going to tell you. Ready? You first make friends with yourself. You first work with your own negativity and stop trying to push it down. On a scale of 1 to 10, how hard is that?
10.
I get a 10 here. It's hard.
Mountain scale.
Yeah, it's hard. If you're actually doing this, if you're actually sitting down with your own body mind, so you don't have to do this, but sit still, hold still, and watch what your mind is doing. It can get harder and harder and harder, and the tendency to want to blame somebody else for how you feel is practically overwhelming. Or blame somebody else or some other situation or how you were raised or whatever. We want to keep doing what? We want to go to something else rather than see what it actually is. But by doing that, by just insisting, by being, you could say, inspired by the teachings, by the Sangha, by the person, by yourself, by the teaching person, by something you heard somewhere. Be inspired to, I want to do this. I want to be able to do this. Then you find the energy, you find the persistence, you find the insistence, you find the stubbornness. It's like a transcendental stubbornness. I'm going to find out what this is. This is the most important thing in my life. I'm going to find out what it is. And you do it yourself. You sit down and make friends with yourself by not adding on to the negativity and the problems that are already arising as your mind. Negative thoughts come up, do nothing. Don't justify them, don't condemn them, don't shut down them. And when I say that, I'm saying don't make up any stories about it. Any thoughts that arise are probably untrue. And of course, don't go to distract yourself through, there's all kinds of ways. You can use TV, you can use relationships, you can use golf, you can use drugs to get out of that feeling. And what's being said is just go into that. That's what you need. That's what you need to actually look at is the negativity that's arising, so that by understanding that in your own way and by being with your own feelings and not going to war with what arises, in this way you're fundamentally sincere, you're genuine, you don't have to make any excuses for yourself. And when you meet other people that are suffering because if you've met yourself where you're at, you can meet them where they're at. And when you meet somebody where they're at, you probably won't have a clue what to say or what to do. Michael.
So compassion has no results. I guess that's a question not really stated. Does compassion have no results?
The results of compassion are none of your business. How's that? There's some results, but if you start picking around through the results, then we're right back to a merchandising mentality. We're right back to the 8 worldly dharmas. We're right back to trying to control what's going to happen. And we're right back to reifying and supporting this crazy world, which is based on lots of crazy ideas. Everything from Karl Marx and Engels to capitalism, all those isms, including Buddhism. It's another strange set of ideas. Yes.
So it's up to the other person to identify it and accept it if it's compassionate towards them, or if you're uncompassionate.
It's not nothing. There isn't any other person. The other person is an illusion. This is what another person looks like. It's your idea about them. When your idea is about the other person, you see through them. You see that there isn't anyone there. Sorry. I'm not saying there's not someone there in the sense of a human form that was talking, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, like that. I'm saying as far as a solid other being, they may think there is, but you know different. You know different. You know the same. What am I saying here? I'm saying there's really no separation fundamentally. When you see that, you're still in a human form. You're still separated from other human forms, but the fundamental situation is not separate. I've been saying it for years. I'm saying it again. Yes, sir.
So what you're saying is don't look for results.
You can look for results, but realize that to get fixated on it destroys what the process. If you're just fixated on the results, you could lose your way. You could, like looking at the top of the mountain and never taking your eyes off the top of the mountain. You could walk right off the cliff. Maybe not a very good analogy or image, but like that, a little bit.
Setting goals is looking for results. So,
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with setting goals.
As long as you don't get fixated on them. A little bit, you can do it a little bit. Quite often we tend to go overboard or we reject it. So a little bit is okay. You can have a goal. I have a goal. My goal is to save all beings, starting with you. How's it feel?
That was great.
Right. There's a result. I didn't know if I was doing okay or not. So the idea is to, when I say save all beings, I'm saying to be with everything, to be with your own thought patterns, be with your own distress, be with your own negativity. That's the hard part. Being with this is really, really difficult. To find out who you are and be with it. Stop objecting to who you are, trying to be some special other guy, woman. Live your life. Your karmas are rising out of beginningless time up to this is right now. Everything that has ever occurred is available right now. Every lifetime that's ever occurred is available right now. And it won't be in the form of a story about you being the king of Prussia in the 18th century. It'll just be the fundamental situation of being here, present, completely present. Those are all stories anyway. Have you ever made the mistake of having someone else's memory?
Not that I know of.
See, but you wouldn't know, would you? That rests my case. That's how strange the mind is. We're not. Identity is very, very discontinuous. It is so discontinuous that we don't always know exactly who we are. So we grasp for identity. We grasp for ideas that reinforce who we. Okay, I'm the person who. Well, I'm the kind of person who doesn't like raccoons. Skunks, fine. Raccoons, I don't like them. They have a mask on. You can trust a possum because they do exactly what it says they're going to do. They play possum. So anything it's playing, I like. I know, silly. It makes sense. But it's the mind does those kind of little somersaults that confuse us and help us or cause us to run around in circles when really we really need to focus our attention. And that's why I'm sitting here encouraging people to meditate. Hold still, find out who you are. Do a lot of it, an hour a day or more. You don't have to become a Buddhist. I think it helps because it gives you a structure, a path, and there's other people who are doing this and have made this their whole life, as I have. You don't have to. It's easier if you do. Yes.
Question from Jim Service in Arizona.
Jim, where have you been?
He might be in Traverse.
Haven't heard from him in a while.
His question is, what is at the root of our desire to blame?
It's actually a desire, wanting to find out why something is happening, trying to go in and find out, here's this result. Now, what caused that? Was it me? I didn't do it. So it must be somebody else. So it gives us the illusion of control, gives us the illusion that we have some say-so about what's going on, because, well, we may not have been able to stop them, but we'll at least know they did it. The thing that makes this so difficult is if someone actually does steal your motorcycle, which reminds me, have you checked lately? See if your motorcycle's out there? Okay. Somebody does steal your motorcycle. Of course, somebody took your motorcycle. So it's very cause and effect. They stole your motorcycle. You no longer have a motorcycle. If you go with that, sure, it works because it's a relative world we live in. But if you fasten down on that, then it's only partially, as I sometimes say, it's only partial evidence. The entire situation can't really be seen. So one of the ways this is talked about in when people work with what's called past life therapy, taking you into apparent past lives. Quite often we find that two people who are at odds this direction in this lifetime, and they've switched roles, now they're doing balance. They're balancing each other. They're back to, it's like things get out of whack, and the perpetrator is the victim, and the victim is the perpetrator. It seems to go back and forth. So what I would say with what Jim is asking about, quite often the general advice is you have to forgive. You have to forgive. You'll never hear me say that. Well, maybe once. I might say I'm sorry. I step on your foot. But it's overrated, the whole idea of forgiveness, because all that does is support again the idea of a solid other being who could be at fault, and you being at fault, and them being at fault. So I often say it's better just not to blame in the first place. Then you don't have to forgive anybody. So the idea of the motorcycle, using that image, when something like that happens, it makes it very easy. Well, sure, it's our motorcycle. I had it locked up. They took it. Call the police. We all do that. I mean, I do it too. That's why I know about it. Somebody cuts through here and walks through, and they shouldn't be. This is private property. I'll probably go out and say, "Don't cut through here." And then what do they say? I'll do whatever I want. Well, what am I going to say to that? So, but we get taken in by cause and effect, by praise and blame. We get taken in by it. It's not that there couldn't be a little bit of that, but quite often we overdo it, and we try to make as they say, federal case out of things. We start by punishing people. Not good. Punishing doesn't balance anything. You should say, why not? I said so. Question?
From William Murray,
Yes, William.
north here. He asks, instead of focusing on results, are we just accepting things as they are without the judgment of, I've come this far or I have this far to go?
Read that again.
Instead of focusing on results,
Okay, stop. Okay.
are we just accepting things as they are without the judgment of, I've come this far or I have this far to go?
Maybe. I understand, William, I understand what you're saying, but we'd have to have, the way you're phrasing that, I would have to have a conversation with you about it. Sheldon.
Where do we find the middle way of having goals?
Having goals? I mean, how to set a goal but not be attached to it? Is that what you're saying? Like, give me an example. What goal do you want?
Like, I'm a person that might just completely abandon goals altogether.
See, now you just abandoned the goal setter right there by saying, I'm the kind of person. As soon as you say I'm the kind of person, there's an out. You don't have to be that person. Follow me? Okay. Keep going.
And some people are like juggernauts and they get goals and there's nothing's going to stop them.
It's just a different style. Look at all the different sizes and shapes and levels of age and intelligence, and and there's so many variables. There's so many. I cannot carry a note to sing. I can't sing. I can't dance. I can't catch a football. Well, there was that one time. I caught a football, but I can't. And then other people are extremely good at it. They just have that kind of ability. I'm good at running my mouth, so I'm up here. Jason is very good at, like he even said the other day, he's so good at reflexes. They're so quick. They're quicker than his thought patterns. Like if you went up to him and had a butcher knife and dropped it in front of him, he'd put his foot out to catch it. Right? That's the example he used. He said, you have to be careful because he'd go, it's just too damn many hours of hacky sack. Hacky knife. But some people have that kind of a dynamic, and they're just really good at that. And usually, people are drawn to that kind of a career or a life. Like some people playing soccer. If you watch a dozen kids playing soccer, you can pick out the one that's probably going to play soccer because he or she is just so good at it. They're just so good with their feet. They're able to just knock that ball up and down and catch it with their heel and everything. Your situation is such that you have certain ideas, that you want to implement, and I'm taking it that you're frustrated because you can't get certain things done. So what you have to do is look at who you are and how you function, and find the ways in which you can get your own attention. So because the desire to do something a certain way is already the case. I can tell by your question, your inquiry, and because I know you. So you'd have to set up kind of ways that'll keep reminding you. So you don't have the kind of bullheadedness that some people seem to have. Some people said, I'm going to do this, and that's what happens. Our friend, the monk, Kozan. If Kozan says she's going to do something, it's as good as done. Because there's something could stop her, but she's extremely good at follow through on things. The other thing she's very good at is pointing out that you're not. Not you, I meant me. I really did. But some people just have that ability, the ability to function in a way that is kind of in awe of how they can do that. Just like people get credit for having a wonderful voice or ability to perform, like our recent musician that just left us, Prince. Or other people, they're very famous, and we give them all this credit, but you can't really see where they did that. They were born that way, just like you're born the way you're born. And that's why I say, don't miss your life, just because you weren't born with, what Elvis Presley was born with, or Prince, or anyone else for that matter. That you weren't born with that. What you were born with. Just be that. We all know of people who were born with incredible talent but aren't happy. They still mangle their faces up and everything and try to be something else. Here they are, incredibly gifted. We all know people like that. Gifted people, and they go in and they want to do a bunch of extra stuff based on what? On fear and on being unhappy. Here they have a lot of money, they have fame, and they're still distressed.
So in terms of practice, how can we find that middle way, like Sheldon's talking about, to be stubborn like you were? What made you so stubborn about this practice?
I was stubborn because I was miserable, because I wanted to end my life, and I wanted to find out what somebody not to do that. I didn't like being angry all the time. I didn't like blaming people or being angry.
So is there a level of just getting fed up with that?
I think so. If you're in this room or if you're listening to this, then you probably are ready to hear this, because I'm not that entertaining. So you're probably ready to hear that I'm saying you're going to have to do this yourself. Please listen to what I'm saying. The most important ask you every day and remind you. That's what it takes. I'm very, very motivated to support other people doing what? Doing it themselves. You have to, even though we have a really strong regulation here, if anybody lives in this temple, they need to be in here sitting 6.5 hours a day, unless they're working or have some reason why they're not. But I never check up on anybody. I don't have to. They don't come into this situation unless they're sincere. If they're sincere, then they do it. If they don't do it, it's like Suzuki Roshi said back in the 60s. He says, if someone is watching you, you can hide from them. But if no one is watching you, you can't hide from yourself. So, pretty interesting the way that works. No one is watching you. You're completely trusted to do whatever you want to do. Yes, sir.
Today, people look for instant results. Most results aren't done overnight. Besides meditation, what is a good way to practice patience?
Watching how impatient you are. See the way in which you're impatient and stop objecting to your impatience. Be willing to be impatient. You have a willingness to be that way. Be genuine. Be who you are. This doesn't mean that if you feel like murdering people, you start murdering people because the old man told you to. So you actually, if you can see the way in which you're impatient, then you can maybe see there might be an opening there where you can see what it is that's behind that, because it seems to be a little bit different with everyone. Sometimes we get conditioned by whether it's this life, past life, how you were treated when you were 4 years old, something that happened to you that's caused things to go awry. There's so many variables. There's so many different things. You can't find the first cause for anything, but you can find what's overrated. Result. You are a result right now. So work with that one. Go ahead.
Why is there a toy mouse up there?
There's a toy mouse up there. There's quite a few toy mice. More back here.
Oh, wow.
Mice are nice, especially toy mice. They're not stuffed. They don't eat much at all. They're mice are. What did I say the other day to justify that? You like them? Yeah. Yeah, show it.
Did your Roxy change colors?
What? This belongs to, or is a Roxy that belonged to Sohekiji-sama in Hojo-sama. Sohekiji in Japan. It was given to my son, Takudo Mason Brown, back in 91. And then Mason has gone to Nepal. And my rock suit, because I wear it all the time, is dirty. So I'm hoping that one of my really close friends will clean it. And so I'm wearing this one, so I'm going to get this one dirty now. So yeah, it's a different shade of brown. I think he sewed this by hand. It looks like a hand stitch.
You can,
Huh?
you can put some.
No, Sohekiji.
Oh,
I don't know that.
I thought you meant to.
No. So we're after 9. One final question, if there is one. Yes, sir.
I don't want to call it a stick, but what is the thing that you hold?
This is a stick.
Okay.
This is called a kotsu. This represents what? It's a backbone. So it's just something to represent, something for a teaching person to hang on to and wave around. I have one and I like it, but I don't want to fiddle with it, so I leave it there. Are we good? Okay, you can dedicate the merit. Thank you.
In the back of your red champ books is the dedication of merit. Also want to remind everybody this Saturday is our all day. It's the last Saturday of the month, so please join us for that. And feel free to stuff our donation boxes with lots of money. Or go on PayPal. We like that too.
May the merit penetrate into all places, so that we in every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jio Sam Shi Shizon Musa The 10 directions, the 3 worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita.
O Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, please hear us. Please come down out of the light and protect Sokuza Buddhist Temple Monastery, our Sangha, families, friends, and visitors. Heal everyone who is unhappy, sick, or suffering, and fill them with light.